I mean, did you watch any of the football games this weekend? We were wondering that.
We were discussing the odds for that. If you watched any of the football,
like watched them, like had it on my TV. No, I did not.
Yeah.
I watched basketball and I consumed it via Twitter and Instagram. Well, mostly Instagram, not even Twitter. And so I know that Taylor Swift has no rhythm and is awful at swag surfing. I know that it was very cold. I know that stupid people in Buffalo decided to go out and shovel snow because I don't know, and the team paid the minimum wage pretty much to do it. What else do I know?
That's so funny. I talked about that with Allie. She had that. She said, I told her, did you know that they paid them $20 to come out and shovel snow? And she went, $20?
Wait, it was 20 an hour.
Team.
20 an hour.
20 an hour. 20 an hour. Well,
$20. but again, I had to remind people, like, minimum wage in the state of New York is $15. So that's like barely more than minimum wage for a team that's worth billions. For what? So that they don't postpone. It's not like the game's going to be canceled. They're just going to play it on another day. So I just, that's an element of fandom that I just don't get.
Do it again. Welcome to the House of Strauss.
Yeah, go for it.
Stars hang with stars, winners hang with winners.
Si un jour tu m'emmènes à la plage, j'aimerais t'en plonger dans les vagues. Je te promets que je resterai sage, mais tu ne comprends pas que je rêve de ça.
It is House of Strauss. We have Amin Elhassan. You know him. You love him. He's more podcast than man. Metalarks Amin. Round of applause. Here's my argument for shoveling snow in the dead of night in horrific conditions in Buffalo, New York. It's an experience, Amin. You will never forget doing that. You will never forget.
I'll never forget making fun of them. and I didn't have to
forget that.
I didn't know. I won't.
You don't think you'll forget that?
When people say, remember that time when people had to shovel snow so they could play a game? I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember. I called them all suckers for doing that shit.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that.
My wife reacted like it was the most insane thing. I couldn't explain it to her.
Not like it was. It is the most insane thing.
Did you see, given that you did not see the football games over the weekend, but did you see via social media when the Lions won, there was a shot of the crowd and grown men were crying at the moment of the first Detroit Lions playoff victory since 1991. Is that something you saw?
The Lions won?
It was a big thing, Amin. It was a momentous event. It was historic. I mean, Eminem was probably crying. I actually thought when I saw that, is there anything in basketball that would do that? And I could only come up with one. That would be a New York Knicks championship.
Oh, that's heads will explode. That's different. That's a different level of, I don't know how many deaths will happen on that day. Most of them purely accidental, but there will be many, right? Of people going to kill themselves, popping champagne bottles into their faces. People, like it's going to be chaos and pandemonium when the Knicks do. I was going to say when the Timberwolves won the playing game and Patrick Beverley stood on the scorer's table. That was my,
it's already happened. It can't be topped. I actually, was there when the Knicks lost the finals in 1999 on that Latrell Sprewell miss. And I don't know how old I was. I was like right before becoming a teenager. And I didn't know this aspect of fandom or New York City because my dad and we went to the game. My dad's a huge Knicks fan. And we actually got on the subway. Explains a lot. We got on the subway after that with the sick, terrible feeling all around us. And people were on edge and yelling at each other and getting into fights on the subway.
Which is funny because, like, Ewing was hurt. LJ got hurt. And the Spurs were clearly the better team. It wasn't a surprise. They were down 3-1 in the series.
Yeah, but you know that fan base. You know what they're like. You know how delusional they are. I mean, it was an education because I'd come from San Diego and we're just, good job, Tony Gwynn. Way to go. You know. Good
Wrap
season, everybody. Yeah, you know, good fighting out there. And then I'm in this atmosphere where people are getting into fist fights on the subway and they're yelling and they're on edge and they're drunk. And it's, oh, this is the Northeast. This is a different kind of thing. And that was the pinnacle of me. And it's never gotten better since. It's only gotten worse.
Yeah, no. So if they do it again, they won opening night and lost their minds. Climbing poles on 7th Avenue. So yeah, if they win a championship, I think it'll be a state of emergency for the entire tri-state area, really.
I think there will be some tears. I think there'll be some happy tears. It was a moment last night.
It will be violent. It will be a violent reaction. Like, you know how every time the Bulls won, every single time, like Chicago turned into Mad Max, like it's the same thing. They are going to destroy the city if they win.
It's like
that's why
it's like a praying mantis after the act of love. Violence needs to happen. Sorry, you're saying.
No, I was saying that's why they don't deserve anything good. They just need to stay just like close enough to almost sense it and feel it and grasp it, but not ever get it in their hands. They need to be Sisyphus.
Oh, Sisyphus. That's a good reference. I mean, this is a good segue. I'm fascinated by the booing of Jerry Krause's widow. For those of you who do not know, Krause, incredible general manager, feuded with Michael Jordan. There's some acrimony, some animus towards him in Chicago. They had their ring night where they celebrated those great Chicago Bulls teams. They put Krause's name on the Jumbotron. They announced it.
I was there.
And they actually... You were there.
I was there. I was in attendance. So
I didn't know that part.
So the backstory, because I know you have a lot of intellectual types that don't follow sports and they just like your machinations on the bigger picture of sports, but not sports themselves, right? Jerry Krause was the GM who built the Bulls dynasty of the 90s. They won 6 championships in the 90s. The only thing he didn't do was draft Michael Jordan. And for some reason, people act like that means he didn't do shit. But Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, trading for Dennis Rodman, first of all, forcing Doug Collins to hire Phil Jackson as his assistant, then making the decision to fire Doug Collins and make Phil Jackson the head coach. Literally, all of these decisions were Jerry Krause. He did it, right? But in the 90s, he had one false step in which he was quoted in an article saying, players don't win championships, organizations win championships. Meaning that like, you can get great talent, but if you don't have the infrastructure and the systems around them, they're not going to be able to win. They need contributions from everybody. What Michael Jordan, famous psychopath, took that to mean was, Jerry Krause is taking credit. Like, I'm the one that did this, not Michael Jordan. And so from that moment on, Michael Jordan just decided, I hate Jerry Krause. That was a really known thing in that second trilogy of championships. And then obviously you have Scottie Pippen with contract issues and then butting of heads between Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause, even though Jerry Krause is the reason why anyone even knew who Phil Jackson was as a coach. All of these things came to a head. And in 1998, after they won their 3rd straight title, Jerry Krause makes the decision that I'm going to break this all up and clear out cap space, which was still not quite a thing that people did, in order to get ready for summer 2000 when Kevin Garnett was going to be a free agent, Tim Duncan, Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady, and the next version of the Bulls was going to happen. But what ended up happening was there was so much anger that he decided to tear it down, that Michael Jordan went on the smear campaign as he retired. And then all these players that they had hoped to get basically said, you treated the greatest player of all time like that. What are you going to do to me? And they all skipped. So it went from Kevin Garnett, who signed an extension, he's off the table, to Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady, they didn't say yes, to Eddie Jones, to he didn't say yes, to then it became Ron Mercer, which is quite the fall off. Fast forward, people kind of forget the Bulls were bad for a long time. Jerry Krause retires and They remain
Jason
to be bad.
Williams, motorcycle accident.
Well, a lot of stuff happens. Jerry Krause is retired. I don't even think he drafted Jason Williams. I think Paxson did. But the point is, some of that stuff kind of was like people, you live and you forget, you just whatever. Like that was a great time. And then The Last Dance comes out. Oh, excuse me. Then Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech happens in 2009, in which he blasts Jerry Krause and does this thing one more time. And then fast forward another 10 years, The Last Dance comes out and it's on full display. And now you have a generation of people who did not live through any of that, who are like, oh, Jerry Krause is an awful person and he's a complete fuck up. And because The Last Dance was not a fair and balanced documentary, The Last Dance was a Michael Jordan commercial, a very well done Michael Jordan commercial. Don't get me wrong, but a commercial nonetheless. So Jerry Krause, in post-mortem, because he's dead now, has become a pariah to a generation of Bulls fans who don't know what the hell they're talking about. So fast forward to this Ring of Honor night. They're honoring the greats of the Bulls franchise, and they're going to do this every 2 years where new people are enshrined. So in the inaugural class, it's the 95-96 Bulls. Then it's Michael Jordan as an individual, Scottie Pippen as an individual, Artis Gilmore, Bob Love, Jerry Sloan, the first owner of the Bulls, whose name escapes me, and Jerry Krause. And, obviously there are a couple of people there who are not alive and had other people representing them. So the way they did it on the Jumbotron is they would put up the name and picture of the person and then start talking and say representing them is Jerry Sloan's grandson, so-and-so's son. And in this case, Jerry Krause's widow. So little old lady. And they said Jerry Krause, and the crowd starts booing intensely. Yeah. And the guy, by the way, it was Neil Funk, who was the former play-by-play guy who's doing the ceremony. And maybe someone with a little bit more zip in their step could have anticipated or led with, hey, representing, here's Thelma Krause. But instead, he just did it. And as he tried to work through it, said representing Jerry Krause, Thelma Krause. I don't know if anyone heard it. She's on the board. She's crying because, again, even if she wasn't there, they're booing her dead husband.
It's amazing.
So
it's in this category. I'm just going to say for a quick second that we've talked about where some things are wrong and they're funny. That was a horrific moment, and I felt horrible for her. Seeing her face hurt me, but it's also this Curb Your Enthusiasm level disaster of so bad that there's dark comedy to it.
There is dark comedy. There is dark comedy to it. And the players who were there all like patted her on the back and like waved to the crowd, don't do this. And I talked to Adam Amin, who is the play-by-play man for the Chicago Bulls now. And he was like, it's one of those things where, how some people boo and then other people don't know what they're booing, but they'll just join along and boo too. And then by the time you realize, oh my God, we're booing a little old lady, it's like, well, pot committed. Why stop now?
Gotta rationalize it now.
So it's not a proud day the funniest thing for me was not the people booing. It's the people after the fact who are like, well, that's on the Bulls for honoring Jerry Krause. I'm like, what? Like the part where the people who are doing the dad system don't apologize, double down, as coined by one Ethan Strauss, saying basically nobody who booed was at fault, even as they saw a little old lady on the screen and continue to boo. Not their fault. Everybody else's fault, but the people who just for one night couldn't just do a polite golf clap for someone who, again, was responsible in part, no small part, for the greatest fucking 10 years of your miserable lives. You miserable people. Fuck you. It's the same thing. I went on Oddball and I talked about the Warriors getting booed, and Steve Kerr and Steph Curry graciously said, no, we deserve to be booed. I would have booed us too, all that stuff. I said, no, you're responsible for the greatest decade of all these miserable people's fucking lives. They can take one bad night from you, or two bad nights, or 10, or 100.
I'm more pro booing. I'm more pro booing.
No.
I think booing is a signal. A good fan base boos. You don't hear any booing. You don't hear any booing in, God, what's an apathetic fan base? I'm going to offend somebody, but in Charlotte, you don't hear booing in Charlotte for the most part.
Hold on. You know where they did? You didn't hear booing once upon a time? Golden fucking State. When they missed the playoffs, 15 out of 16 years.
Yeah.
Nobody booed.
But at Chris Mullen's ceremony, which is the only thing that is even, it's not to the same degree as this, but it was the same level of shit show, and I was there. They booed Joe Lacob, and Rick Barry grabbed the microphone, and basically was you, you miserable sons of bitches. He didn't say that, but that's basically what he was saying.
The difference between me and Rick Barry is Rick Barry's prescient. He understood this guy is not Chris Cohan. He's doing a lot to make this thing better. You guys, how dare you? Like you, this is a huge upgrade for you. How dare you boo this guy? I'm doing hindsight. Motherfucker, you know what the fuck these people are responsible for? And you boo them? You boo them. You're not booing Kuminga. You're not booing Moses Moody. You're not booing, goddamn Corey Joseph or Dario Saric. You're booing Steph fucking Curry, Klay Thompson, and Steve Kerr, and Kevon Looney. I'll throw him in there as well. Like, these motherfuckers are responsible for the greatest days of your life. You're going to think back the day I got married, the day my first child was born, the day the Warriors won the goddamn title again and again and again. So to me, like, I'm all for booing. You can boo the Knicks. None of those guys are responsible for the best days of your life, even though they're much better now. You can boo goddamn the Pacers. You can boo the Jazz. You can boo the Lakers. I mean, LeBron, even though you won a title, he wasn't responsible for the best days of your life as a Laker fan. It was a cool day, but it pales in comparison to the best days, which I would imagine are the Kobe championships or the Kobe Shaq championships. You can't boo the motherfuckers who are responsible for the best days of your life forever, unless they do something literally like assault someone or like, do something truly heinous and nefarious. If they're just not playing well, guess what, motherfucker? You just gotta say, well, thanks for 2018. That was really cool.
Yeah. Well, we'll table the Warriors question of it. I think I'm gonna go there this week. I think I might even write about it. Yeah, or a practice. There's a little bit of they might break up the team, and I just want to see it one last time. I've been away.
I want a long time without you, my friend. I saw Draymond in Chicago. He's looking good. He's looking well. He was very happy, very jovial.
Maybe a little season turnaround on the horizon.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like it's like everyone's booing. It's like, well, they've been hurt, and one of their best players has been suspended. Not that he doesn't deserve to get booed for that, because that was kind of rising to the point of heinous. But he comes back and this thing turns around. Watch all those boos turn to tears. Silicon Valley loves a winner.
They definitely will. I mean, it'd be funny if I just spent the House of Strauss budget on a courtside seat and I said hi to all the people I haven't seen in a while. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Steph, it's been a long time. And then I just boo the shit out of them for the entire game. Just no.
May said, "Bring the neon sign around your neck like Flavor Flav."
I've got a neon House of Strauss sign that eventually I'm putting up in the background. People, for those who do not know, yeah, that's what I should do. That'd be some good earned media, as they say. Let's take it back to the Krause of it all. I think the counter to your claim, on these people have been propagandized by The Last Dance. Hating Jerry Krause might be Lindy, as in perpetual, as in stands the test of time. I was looking at an old article in one of the Chicago papers in 1990 asking, why do Bulls fans hate Jerry Krause so much? The team had not even won its first title yet, but it was making the argument, look, the team's been doing really well, and you got Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, and people just hate this guy. And I wonder, Amin, if it's because it's changed when it comes to GMs, and it's more of a nerd-friendly environment, and Krause was just one of the first.
For sure.
One of the first nerd GMs, and everybody wanted to give him a wedgie. Didn't matter. He was from Chicago, had a thick Chicago accent.
His nickname was Crumbs. His nickname was Crumbs because he's not only nerd. He just says nerd, and you probably think about like Sam Presti. No, Jerry Krause was short and fat and big jowls. Like he just looked like, and he looked like someone whose nickname is Crumbs. That's the best way I could put it.
He looked like Reddit is what he looked like. And I don't know if that's fair to Reddit. I don't know if that's fair. Yeah. I have no idea if that's fair. But yeah, there was something to that time. Sports was more of a jock space, and now there was no Sloan Conference back in the 1990s. That wasn't a thing. And it was just known, this is the nerd, he's annoying, boo the nerd. And that seems to be part of Chicago Bulls fan culture since maybe even the late 80s. So I'm not sure. I'm sure The Last Dance did not help, but it seems like that's just in there.
I think, Ethan, if Jerry Krause lives his life, does exactly what he did, and Jordan is upset at the time, and says as such at the time, but then we don't talk about it again for 25 years. I think when you have a Ring of Honor ceremony saying Jerry Krause, the GM of the Bulls, architect of the 90s Bulls, people would have applauded because they're just like, they don't remember. That's what I always say. That's what I always said about Kevin Durant, where he's like continuously talking to the fans after. I said, you win the championship and you just don't talk about it and people forget. And it's like, they just look back. It's like LeBron. At the moment when LeBron went to Miami, it's like, we'll never, ever forget this. This is such a shameful thing. And like by the third year, it's like, yeah, Heat are pretty good. And now it's just like, yeah, LeBron, I was telling my kid, LeBron played for Cleveland, then played for Miami, then went back to playing for Cleveland after that. Like, it's just a footnote. No one remembers no one carries the anger is what I should say, unless you keep it alive. In the case of Kevin Durant, he was complicit in keeping the anger alive about him by continuing to talk about it as opposed to just moving on. In the case of Jerry Krause, it's Michael Jordan who kept that fire alive 25 years later, even though we didn't need it.
It's weird that there's such an attachment to pretending that he's Yoko Ono. He's treated as though he just showed up one day and broke up the Bulls.
It up. Yeah, that's right.
He built it. He's somehow, I mean, people would say Michael Jordan's John Lennon, I suppose, but you could make the argument that it's almost like he's both. He's a Beatle and he's Yoko Ono all at the same time. I'm not even convinced he actually broke it up. He's Ringo. I'm not even convinced he actually broke it up. I mean, when you talk to Steve Kerr, there's definitely a sense that with that Bulls team, the story had run out. And I'm not sure if they win that championship without it being The Last Dance either. That was such a focus of that season. When you see that documentary, the impression I got from that documentary was not, oh my God, they were about to win a bunch more titles, if not for that meddling Jerry Krause. It was they needed every just drop of energy and fuel they could get to get there. And that was based on the idea it was ending.
Everybody was done, right? Like Scotty was done because he wanted a new deal. Phil was done because he wanted to take a step back. Dennis Rodman was done because the implosion had begun. Like it just, like whatever tenuous grasp on reality that he had was all the way gone, right? That's the Vegas trip and all that stuff. So it's like, this was the Expendables. This is our last score, so to speak, right? If they had come back, Phil Jackson wouldn't be the coach, right? By his decision. Michael Jordan said, I won't play for anyone other than Phil Jackson, right? Like all these things happened in cascade. Now, does Jerry Krause bear responsibility for why everyone felt that way? Why Scottie Pippen was upset about his contract? Why Phil Jackson was like, fuck this shit? Why Michael Jordan said, I'm not going to. Sure. He is complicit in that. I don't want to absolve him from blame for breaking it up. Although, like you said, even if they stay together, I don't know if they would won another year. But the reality is, the only reason we're in a position to even have this conversation is because he put the shit together. And that has value. I don't give a damn who you are. Nothing just happened. Like everyone's like, oh, Michael Jordan. Look at what Michael Jordan did as an owner and a leader of basketball ops. Look at the decisions he made. Right?
Well,
it's not that easy. It's not that easy.
One of the reasons he hated Krause was the Oakley trade to get Cartwright, and then eventually he admitted it was a pretty good decision. Though I do kind of wonder if they could have just rolled with Oak and built championships that way. But it didn't look. They couldn't have done better than they did.
That's why? You know why they couldn't? Because
Cartwright owned Ewing.
Yes. Like you needed 7 feet and also someone who had a little bit of a psychological advantage over Patrick Ewing. Look, Oakley, tough defender, all that shit. Guess what, man? Against a 7-footer, the motherfucker wasn't going to do much. They needed, and it wasn't just Ewing. Remember, there's all these other bigs all across the league at this point. So as much as I love Charles Oakley, as a kid who grew up a Knicks fan and grew up in New York, like, yes, that was the right deal. That was the right move. Just like not trading Scottie Pippen for Sean Kemp was the right move. Just like, trading Will Purdue for Dennis Rodman straight up. Motherfucker, today, every fucking talk show would be sucking his dick every day. Oh, the wonder child, Jerry Krause. He traded Will Purdue for a Hall of Famer straight up.
Yeah, at the right time.
These are incredible moves. And then the Phil Jackson of it can't be lost on anyone. Phil Jackson was coaching in the goddamn CBA. If you wonder what the CBA is, imagine the G League. Now imagine it poorer, like a poor G League in awful locations like Grand Rapids and Bismarck, North Dakota, and places like that. He said that dude is going to be a great NBA head coach. I can't make him a head coach immediately because that's too big of a leap. So I'm going to put him on the staff of my head coach. And in time, he will. And then, I mean, like, I'm sorry. Like, you cannot separate the success of the individuals or the collective from Jerry Krause. The only one is Michael Jordan. He didn't draft him. Rod Thorne did that. And what else did Rod Thorne do?
Well, I mean, this is the creeping determinism too, where once the Bulls win, it's just and Phil Jackson gets diminished a little bit from this too, where it just becomes, well, of course he won with Michael Jordan. And it's just,
let me tell you something. Tell you something. Phil Jackson's reputation, nationwide, worldwide, or whatever, has probably been tarnished a lot by that Knicks experience, right? You have the Posse comment, you have Porzingis fallout, you have Frank Ntilikina drafted over Donovan Mitchell and like a host of other really good players. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, maybe? I don't know. So, like, there's a lot, right? But in that building, in that city, second loudest ovation. Number 1 was Michael Jordan. Number 2 was Phil Jackson.
And it's similar in LA, where they love Phil in LA. And I would say that some people slight him and they say, oh my God, the talent. But in both those cases, the first title of those dynasties, the team was not predicted to not have the best odds to win the title. So it's not like it was that people really saw this coming and said, oh, of course, until you do it.
It's not just that, Ethan. It's, again, it goes back to this false belief that people have that NBA basketball is like pickup ball. As long as I have the best players, I'm going to win. And that's not the case. The case, like, you have to have someone who, A, knows how to use them, B, knows how to motivate them, right? Because players could just say, fuck you. I don't care how smart of a coach you are. I'm not playing for you, right? So what Phil did was he convinced the greatest player in the world that, hey, you having the ball in your hands every possession, even though you're averaging 38, even though we're winning 50 plus games, even though we've been to the conference finals, that's actually bad. You know what we need to do? We need to throw our big doofy white center the ball at the pinch post. And then you're going to go off ball on some screens and cross screens, and then you'll get the ball. He convinced the greatest player in the world of this in his prime. That's not easy. Just like he convinced two people who clearly hated each other in Shaq and Kobe, hey, if we do it like this, like, we're going to win a lot. Now, obviously, it's a lot easier coming in because he has the Bulls thing behind him as opposed to coming in fresh and trying to convince that. But again, it starts with he convinced Michael Jordan that this is actually better than you having the ball in your hands all the time. I'm sorry. No, you couldn't just get anyone who's going to roll the ball out and would have won the same.
The tragedy is that to do it, to manipulate people in a positive direction, he probably played the game of I've got your back and the GM is the villain. You know, I'm on your side. Jerry Krause is the bad guy, which helps the team, allows them to win, but then has this externality of the fan base then getting that message and feeling like, so I do want to make one final point about Krause, which is one of the reasons he might not get enough credit is that I think a GM back in those days did something a little different than a GM right now. Jerry Krause was really good at what he did because he was such a grinder at a time where being a grinder really could pay dividends because you could find guys. You could literally find guys. Gotcha. There was no internet. You had to go, and he went to so many games, scouted so many people. I mean, if Tony Kukoc existed today, everybody could pull up a file.
The internet would know about, like Reddit would know about him. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that gets lost the time a little bit where we don't even believe in GMs as guys who find guys. I don't know what we even think they do. I mean, everybody knows Presti is a great GM.
It's all trades and salary and contracts. That's what people think. They think it's all just trading, trade, sign. That's all it is. And again, there's still an element of grinding. It's just, it's not the high upside that it was back before film was available for everybody. Yeah.
Crumbs could pick up a lot of low-hanging fruit. We will transition from this topic to another topic, Amin. I thought it was so interesting. I'm usually a victim of aggregation. Today, I plan to benefit from it. Zach Lowe, I would say, leading NBA writer at ESPN, it was a thing that he announced that he's giving up his voting rights for the All-NBA team and whatnot. I mean, this has been aggregated all over. He's giving up his NBA awards ballot because he does not want to determine contract. And he doesn't want that kind of pressure. If I was better prepared, I actually did write down some of the quotes somewhere, and I've subsequently lost them.
Good job.
Good job by me right there. I'm looking. There's an awful announcing.
This is the greatest, the number one sports Substack in the world, huh? Like, this is it. This is the pinnacle. This is the pinnacle. If you're someone thinking about starting your own sports Substack, just remember this is the peak right here.
This is why John Canzano got past me. He wouldn't make a mistake like this.
Yeah,
he would pull it up. He would just have it for everybody. Zach said, I surrendered mine just to take a break. I was like, I'm going to take a break from having a ballot and all the noise. Not for All-Star necessarily, but the determination of some bonuses and supermaxes. I was like, I'm starting to feel a little icky. I'm out of the ballots for a year.
No, so you didn't give it up.
He's just giving it up for a year. You don't think that's real?
What the fuck, man? Oh my God, this is even. Oh, okay, all right.
You need to do the Adam Silver for life. Look,
this is his dry January.
Look, I've never voted on these things, so
really?
In a way, I don't know. Yeah,
I have.
They never gave it to me. Yeah, they just.
Yeah, I have. I was one of the chosen ones. Yeah, I was one of the chosen ones. Yeah. No, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what it is right here. Like, Zach, I love you. This is a look at me Louis move.
I knew you'd say that.
This is a look at me Louis move, and here's why. Here's why it's a look at me Louis move. Because first of all, you didn't give it up for life. You gave it up for a year. Like, that's what does that mean? It's dry January. It's like Anthony Mays. It's like saying, I'm not going to drink for January. Like, okay, so you're going to just go back to doing what you did before January, right? Like, yeah, absolutely, right? But here's the other part of it. He could have done this and not said a word. He could have done this and not said a word. Much like the infamous inaugural Look at Me Louis Award, Monty Williams. You could have grabbed Giannis and Coach Bud and all those guys individually in the hallway right by where they have the trophy room. For those who don't know, when you win the championship in the NBA, they have a room that the trophy sits in. Like, after the initial, like, trophy in the locker room, everyone champagne, the actual official formal pictures happen in a separate room that's guarded. And the players go one at a time, and the coaches go one at a time, and they bring whatever family members they want with them to come take the picture with them. If you were so hell-bent on congratulating someone, you could literally just wait either outside the locker room or right outside that room. And as they're walking by, say, hey, coach, man, great. Thank you. I feel like you made me. You didn't have to walk in the middle of their celebration. Champagne's on. Say, everybody calm down. The losing coach has something to say, unless you wanted to appear magnanimous to people. Look at me. I'm such a gracious loser that I went into the den of the beast, and I let the beast know you have bested me, and I for that salute you, sir. Right? That's what made it Look at Me, Louie. And that's what makes this Zach Lowe thing Look at Me, Louie. Because if Zach had just, hey, Zach's not on the ballot this year, what happened? Yeah, I told him I needed a break from it. But
he's too big a deal, though. You don't think he needs to give people an explanation if there's no Zach voting? There's a whole element to this, by the way, that he cannot say. He cannot say, if I'm to just suppose something right here.
What's that?
It's that it's not just an individual pressure when it's Zach Lowe and he votes on these awards. I mean, people have those considerations. Personally, because I'm a worse person, I would relish the power. I would relish the power over contracts. I would like Smeagol, just, clutch it to my chest. But there's this other aspect to Zach because he's known to be the leading guy. If you talk about, hey, who's the top best known NBA writer, it's Zach Lowe. Yeah. A lot of people tail Zach's opinions. They do. And they are well considered and well observed opinions.
So this actually links to the last thing we talked about, which is I said Michael Jordan doesn't like Jerry Krause. I get it. And I get why. Does Michael Jordan have a responsibility to not necessarily broadcast that? Not because he's not allowed to have an opinion, but because his opinion incites such fervor that he, like Michael Jordan, can say, I'm not really fond of the Big Mac. And people will be protesting Big Macs outside of McDonald's, right? As opposed to just saying, oh yeah, Mike doesn't like it, I like it, it's all good. Like his word goes beyond an opinion. It becomes almost law for these zealots. In an opposite way, you're saying that Zach Lowe is like a positive version of this, where it's like by him saying, I'm giving it up for a year because it's wrong that we have control over this, that it might convince the zealots to make this a big deal and we get change on that front.
I mean, I think there might be that, but I also think there's just a pressure to it. I think there's a pressure to it that he cannot say, which is,
If that's the case, then I rescind the Look at Me, Louie, and I say, you're one devious son of a bitch, and I respect that part. Then absolutely.
I think if I had to guess, and I can't get into Zach's head, I think this is a don't look at me, Louie. Don't look at me. I think that's what's going on right now. Because he doesn't want everybody paying attention to every single pick of his to this degree, because I know there are media members. I know there are media members who just, it's like pegging your currency to another nation's currency where, hey, we can't be any worse than England if we just peg our currency. And they just mimetically, word of the podcast, mimetic, they just copy the Zach picks. And that puts an extra level of pressure on somebody versus if I was given the right to vote on these awards, nobody's tailing my picks. And I'll get shat on if I make a bad pick, obviously, but it really doesn't matter. If you're Zach, every one of those picks is put under a microscope. That's what I'm saying.
So are you saying, now I'm getting two different vibes. One vibe is the Brian Windhurst, I don't make predictions philosophy, right? I'm not just going to make guesses off of things that I will then be held accountable to as if I was 1,000% in belief of it. So that's why Wendy doesn't make predictions. So on the one hand, I'm thinking, is Zach doing this because he doesn't want his name in print, picking things that may or may not end up being true or accurate or correct? Or is this Zach doing this because of the immense, like, hey, for my money, I think Alperen Şengün is the most improved player. I know most people are going to pick Maxey. Maxey's probably going to win it, but in my mind, I think Şengün is. But because I said it, now I inadvertently influence all of these other voters who don't do the homework. We're like, well, let's see what Zach did. And that's
I know everybody makes this analogy. This is very cliche, but Zach Lowe is so much like Regina George in Mean Girls, where he says he adopts a fashion and the entire school adopts the fashion. I know it's something everybody says, but
do you think Zach is going to listen? Do you think Zach is going to listen to this and be like flattered or offended or like, yeah, they pretty much nailed it?
I mean, I have no idea. I wish we could have him on. I think it's a little tricky with him being at ESPN. It would be great to
not without Daddy's permission.
I think it would be pretty difficult to book him.
If Daddy doesn't say it's okay, then I can't do it.
Yeah,
actually, if Daddy's around, we can't even make eye contact. I don't know if you know that rule. If their dad's around, they can't make eye contact with me.
There are a lot of rules. I haven't been in the mix. I was at Summer League, so that's what I get.
You think Daddy's a subscriber? Does he have a burner account? Or does he have someone else who aggregates it for him?
That's a very good question. I know he's aware. I know there have been conversations internally about some of the things I've written, which I think I've been taking it easy on him. I've been not really. I've been doing other stuff. I'm not trying to make it the weekly Woj over at House of Strauss.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you weren't talking about Pitaro? No.
I was talking about Jimmy.
Oh man, I thought it's you weren't talking about Pat McAfee. You weren't talking about yeah, that's by the way, I checked in on the whole Le Batard diving into the Stephen A. Whitlock thing that you were present for when you made a fat joke about your boss, which I thought was ballsy, and I laughed very
fat every day, not just Fat Tuesday.
I laughed very hard. It was a very compelling stretch of radio. I'm using radio generally. I know it's not radio.
Audio medium.
Yeah, it's just the way that it was talked about. Every one of those writers, those Gen X writers who are at page 2, they have such a weird history with all each other. And it's you bring up a name, you bring up Whitlock, and it's like, I haven't heard that name in years.
Even have you ever watched the TV show Yellow Jackets? It's on Showtime. I watched
one episode. Cleveland, based in Cleveland, right?
No, I think no. It's
that's something with fire with Reese Witherspoon in it. Yeah, sorry, no.
Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets is about a girls' high school soccer team from like New Jersey, and they're flying to a national championship in like Seattle, and the plane crashes in the wilderness. And then you have this Lord of the Flies thing where over 18 months they're having to survive, and all of these personalities are at large. And there's some obviously cannibalism, like there's all this stuff. And obviously. Then they get found, and they go on to have quote unquote normal lives. But obviously there's just all this trauma from this thing that happened because they're famous for being those girls that survived in the wilderness for 18 months. How did they do it? Right. And so they all live separate lives. For the most part, they don't interact with one another. But that's what that page 2 reminds me of like these people who were part of this shared experience somewhere that was very defining, almost like character defining. Yeah. And now it's like they've all gone their separate ways. And this one is the batshit crazy one because he ate someone.
Well, I think about him more as like the kids from It, to that analogy, that sort of shared history.
Same thing. Yeah, they grow up.
Same deal. Yeah. Classic convention. It's just funny because page 2 is one of these things where people who are big time sports media consumers of a certain age might remember. But if I were to talk to a 25-year-old and go, no clue. Hey, page 2, page 2, the page was all yellow on the ESPN.com website.
They wouldn't even like, what do you mean you went to a website to read about things?
Yeah.
Like,
what?
Oh, you mean they couldn't fit it all in a tweet?
Oh my God. No, it would be very strange. It was just a different world back then. And apparently they were all forged in it. And the people who came out of it became all big time media people disproportionately. And they've got this weird history where it's like, I'm no longer friends with him, but I wanted to call to check on him to see if he was okay. They just say things like that. That was Levitard.
No, but Dan is different. Dan's a weirdo, man. Dan's just a weirdo when it comes to stuff like that. Dan is the quintessential I see the good in everybody person. Like he's legitimately shocked when like awful people do awful things. Like what? Like come on, Dan, you have to have seen that one coming. Shit, he hired me.
Typical Scorpion and the frog move right there.
Yeah.
Although you're a good coworker. I would say
I'm a great
that.
coworker.
Yeah,
I'm a great coworker. I stick up for my teammates. I work hard. I'm not obsessed about taking credit for things. Right. I am a great teammate, but I am also like a very, very awful person to be at odds with. And
yeah, that's true.
Luckily, most people in industry I'm not at odds with. So they get to live fruitful lives. And then the few who I am at odds with, I get to fuck with them in my own special way. Hi, Daddy. Yeah.
Man, I was thinking
Daddy,
about
can we go out and play? What are you playing with? It's a meme. No, I told you to stay away from that kid. Aw.
I was thinking it's such a... Now I'm sensitive to sharing aspects of my own life after I had Eric Schwartzel on and we talked about the YouTube influencer who consumed his own existence until he ultimately was wrecked by it and died after sharing too much of his family life, which has now made me paranoid about sharing any sorts of family stories. But I don't know. Some are amusing.
How did he die? You said he died. Like, did he kill himself?
Well, the phone was on his chest when he overdosed. Yeah. You know, he didn't kill himself, but he was consumed by it.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Like he was, instead of like doing something about like what was happening to him, he was like, must still tweet one last thing.
He was a successful Disney executive. His wife had a hit self-help book called Girl Wash Your Face. That was this unexpected hit. He quit his job.
It's not Girl Wash Your Face. It's Girl Wash Your Face. Was she black?
No, it was a white woman, white Christian woman.
Then it's Girl Wash Your Face.
Yeah, it's I thought when I first heard the title, it's like when you first heard the name Shavlik Randolph. You know, you make certain assumptions and it turns out
for sure.
Oh wow, this is quite surprising.
Levon Kendall's another one.
Yeah. Disney executive making millions of dollars, quit to turn this into a business. Shit. Discovered when his wife's doing all the stuff you're good at. You're good at that stuff. You're good at making the little Instagram snippets. That's a talent of yours.
You talking about me or are you talking about the wife?
You. I'm talking about you.
I'm awful.
No, you're good at that. No, you're good.
Anyways, go ahead. So the wife.
Yeah, so she's doing it, and then he starts dabbling in it a little bit. He's kind of a uptight guy, and then he starts getting addicted to it. Next thing you know, he's sharing aspects of his life. He's doing tea times with his 4-year-old and making that a regular feature where he seems to be compelling his 4-year-old daughter into the camera when she just wants to be a 4-year-old. And then it goes down a dark path. They divorce, ends in death, the whole thing. So I worry. But that's a long way of me saying that I saw Nate Duncan was at my house trolling my he was trolling I'm getting emotional about it. My voice is cracking. Trolling my 5-year-old in a way that it really literally crossed my mind that Amin would appreciate what's happening here.
First of all, just without asking any further questions, I say, yes, I do appreciate it. I don't even know what happened. But second of all, given that it is Nate Duncan, are you sure he was trolling him and not just talking to him?
I think it might have been latter. It might have been the latter.
Exactly. That's why Nate's just talking, right? He's not necessarily trolling.
My son was eating a burger. He just eats plain burger. He's very picky. He doesn't want anything messing with anything. He was eating a plain burger. And you know, Nate has a food podcast. He's got very strong food opinions. And he said, and I hope Nate is okay with me saying this, just know it was tongue in cheek. Yeah. He said, if you go take a girl out on a date in the future, if you don't have cheese in that burger, she'll think you don't know food. My son got very upset by this. He got very upset about being questioned. He threw a little bit of a tantrum. He crossed his arms. Nate was just saying it's not as good. It's just better to have cheese. His wife steps in. She messages. She ameliorates the situation. She says different people have different tastes. My son kind of calms down. It settles down. And it's like the shine box scene in Goodfellas. Nate goes right back to it. He goes right, but it is true.
It's like, now shine my fucking shoes. You motherfucker.
My son starts going, yeah. Nate's wife.
He starts beating Nate with the butt of a gun.
Nate's wife is kind of horrified, and I'm kind of like Bill Belichick when his players would fight in practice, and there's this little wry smile. This is good. This is good competition. I like this. This is because he needs that. I think that's important. It's important.
Dude, I'm telling you.
You know, I'm fine with the plain burger. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's good to get a little bit of friction to learn how to be teased. But I just pushback.
Yeah, man. No, it's funny. It's like this bubble that people live in where it's like I don't know if you watched Ricky Gervais's latest stand up on Netflix.
Not seen it yet. Saw the recent Chappelle.
It's Chappelle is great. I think that this Ricky one might be even funnier because it just hits home over and over the point where it's like he'll make jokes that are offensive and he'll always bring it back to like, let me tell you why that joke isn't offensive. And it's like, no, he won't even say that. Mm-hmm. He'll literally he'll come up with a hypothetical. Let me do a hypothetical based on, let's assume what you just told me was a hypothetical. There's a man and he tells the child, if you don't have cheese on it, you'll never go on a date with anyone. And the child starts crying and like everyone laughs and he's like, and then the child said, well, why would you do that? Why would you make me this is embarrassing. You're making me the butt of the joke. And that's when the older man would say, well, no, because I'm not real and you're not real. We're just hypotheticals in a hypothetical situation. That's why it's a joke. That's why we can laugh at it because it's not actually happening.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is it existed in that space that you're talking about, but it existed in this other space I think was confusing for my son, which is I'm just teasing, but really you should have some cheese on your burger. Yeah. I think it's confusing. It's confusing for a 5-year-old a little bit, but that's fine. If that's the worst thing he experiences that day, that is okay.
I do that shit to my kids all the time, man. Ruthlessly.
You just troll them.
And they troll me back. They troll me back. They're like, they'll like my oldest will do this thing where like, she'll be playing with my hair or whatever. And then we'll look on top and like, bald spot's coming in really nice. Like just out of the blue. I'm like, hey man.
Yeah. Like, they don't care.
But I'm raising kids who can take it and hopefully can dish it. And that I think you want to market inefficiency. It's people who don't have thin skin, I think, are going to be in the future very successful because they're going to be operating in a world where everyone is highly agitated and triggered by everything.
Which is why it's totally okay that the booing is happening in Golden State.
Nah, fuck you, man. No. There's a difference between having a thick skin, which Steve Kerr and Steph Curry clearly, the Klay Thompson do. I don't know, Klay, maybe not.
Yeah, but, it's a little different now.
Maybe not. But there's a difference between that and also, it's not like, hey, you guys should never be booed by anybody. You can be booed. I'm saying those people, you don't get to boo. You don't get to boo because of what these people are responsible for you in your life. In other words, your son absolutely should get flame thrown by Nate Duncan because Nate Duncan has not provided anything for your son. Right? Now, if it were Nate Duncan was the secret benefactor who's funding House of Strauss behind the scenes, then it's like, all right, like, maybe you can just hush up there.
Yeah.
See how that goes?
No. Like, you'd think so, but they tend to treat us worse, our kids do, than they do the people who do nothing.
They're always tough with me and then like go to school and like, oh, someone says, why'd you just say something back?
Yeah. I mean, those situations are quite difficult to navigate. I think I've exhausted my topic list, Amin. I think we actually were quite succinct. I wanted to throw the whole Well, I was going to throw the whole Taylor Swift in the studio box controversy, but I have no idea if that even crossed your mind at any time.
The only controversy I know is that she has no rhythm, even though she's this award-winning singer, songwriter, musician. How do you have that as a career and have no rhythm? I don't understand.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Is that the controversy, or is there another controversy beyond that?
No, there's no real controversy. I mean, it was interesting to me that in the Lions game at one point, I guess I'm just always amused by the way people hunt hypocrisy on social media and chase it to just weird places. Because I think at one point, a big moment in the Lions game, they show Eminem on the Jumbotron and they show him on TV. They're playing Lose Yourself and he's trying to hype up the crowd. And a bunch of people who have been defensive about the NFL shows, the NFL broadcast showing Taylor Swift repeatedly, are saying, oh, but no one's complaining about this. No one's complaining about this. And it's just, it's just not the same. It's just not the same thing.
I think a logical person would say, Eminem has a very strong tie to the city of Detroit and to the Lions. Yeah. And also he penned a song that is a very, very popular sport, jock jam. It's a jock jam, right?
A modern jock jam.
A modern jock jam, right? Taylor Swift is not from Kansas City. She's just dating this guy. Who knows if she'll be dating? Like Eminem will always be from Detroit. Taylor Swift might be dating someone who plays for the Lions, in 3 years, right? Yeah. Maybe not, but the point is, she doesn't have a strong tie to the city. She doesn't have an anthem that is like, that's the anthem, a jock jam that this Kansas City Chiefs team rocks out to. She's just there for the publicity. I mean, she's there because of her relationship.
And publicity.
But the publicity is why she's being shown and why she's being incorporated into the broadcast. But I would also say, hey, motherfucker, this ain't church. This isn't Congress. Yeah, this is a TV show you're watching. And if they can get more viewers to watch the TV show because special guest star Taylor Swift, woo, live studio audience. Like I was on my way.
Nicholson of Kansas City.
Right? Like, or not even that. Like, I'm thinking about it like when the Harlem Globetrotters would be on Scooby-Doo. It's like, the Harlem Globetrotters, what are you doing here? Like, well, we were on our way to our next game, and we thought we'd stop by and help you guys. Like, that's what she's doing. That's what the NFL is doing. It's not a big deal. Watch your fucking stupid TV show and get over it.
I mean, I went from being annoyed a little bit during the regular NFL season because they would throw to her maybe 30 times in the game to now I've stopped worrying and learned to love it. And it's just in a pressure moment, it adds an aspect of comedy. It's sort of like the Chappelle scene, the Chappelle bit on Hearing from Ja Rule, where maybe Travis Kelce has dropped a pass in a just colossal moment, and it's the Chiefs fans are horrified, and then throw to Taylor Swift. It's sort of this out of context thing. It's become part of the TV show. And to what you're saying, it is a TV show. It's just a TV show that happens to sometimes be played at -7 degrees. I mean, that's crazy to me. This is what we'll end on. This is what we'll end on. You are not a football fan. You are a basketball fan.
I'm a football fan. I'm a casual football fan though. Like if the Giants are good, I'm into it. If the Giants are bad, which they've been most of the time, it's like, I kind of know the beats and rhythms of what's happening. Other than the Lions winning, I did not know that one. But I don't need to be like,
I need my football.
It's crazy to me that people are like that.
That they pay for Peacock to watch the football.
Dude, instead of watching True Detective.
You sort of gravitate to success when it comes to the New York teams. You want your Yankees, not your Mets. You want your Giants, not your Jets.
Yes.
Yeah, it's come to think of it, Taylor Swift is kind of like the apple that pops out when a Met hits a home run right now, where a Chief scores a touchdown and they just show Taylor Swift reacting. Yep. That's what she's become in Kansas City. We'll end on this. How you feel about football weather. I wrote an article about football weather, about how one conference way colder than the other. I've been getting mocked and scorned in one of my group chats of true blue, grizzled, hardcore, tough guys like Sam Esfandiari.
Oh my God, that wine and cheese enthusiast.
Because I'm not in love with football weather to an extent. Maybe a little snow game is okay. I think it's a little crazy. I know we're used to it. Anything we're used to. But with football, I do think it's a little bit weird. It's like if in basketball they played all these games and then the playoffs. Okay, we're gonna pour a bunch of water onto the floor.
Look, this is my thing. If you want to have a home field advantage that's based on it's so freaking cold. Miami's not used to playing in the cold. I want in the playoff game for them to have to play in this cold. I get that. The moment we're talking about like 6 inches of snow, whatever's happening in Buffalo, this is dumb. I think every cold weather city should have a retractable roof. You can keep it open if it's just cold. The moment we start having shit fall on the field, get it the fuck out of here, man. Get it out of here. And let's play the actual game, because at the end of the day, we came to watch these guys play against each other, not against Mother Nature. Just my 2 cents.
And in Buffalo, they've rescheduled the game because the conditions are bad. I don't know the details of it. Maybe people could even get to the game, so maybe it would have been rescheduled even with a dome. But it just seems crazy to me. There was something that Jason Garrett, who was announcing the game, said that stuck in my mind. It's not that profound, but it was just, this is too much, man. He was talking about when they were going into the halftime. He said, and his team had played in some of these games when he was coaching. The problem is you get in there into the locker room and guys get the chicken broth and they get the hot chocolate and they don't want to get out. They don't want to leave the locker room. And I thought, that's too much, man. That's just too.
I do like the idea of Tyreek Hill going in at halftime in a playoff game, having some chicken broth and some hot chocolate. And all right, guys, here we go. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3. And Tyreek's like, respectfully, guys, I'll see you later. I'll holler at you at the end of the game.
Ankle hurts. Think I pulled something.
What was the guy from Buffalo that retired at halftime? Remember a couple of years ago? He was just like, you know what? Fuck this shit. And he just walked out. That's my hero.
Mean, because the game was moderately close. The Dolphins were playing, but they weren't going to win. And I could see myself doing that. I mean, I could see myself going, look, pulled something. Ooh, this hot chocolate. This is some good hot chocolate. This is Vontae Davis, says Mays.
Vontae Davis. Oh, that's Vernon Davis's brother. How about that? Bring it all to the Bay Area.
VD.
I don't know if that's the nickname you want.
That's what people would yell when I was at the sports bar whenever Vernon Davis got a first down. I don't know. When I was at George and Waltz in Oakland.
Were they yelling about that, or were they yelling about like the burning sensation?
I mean, VD. I mean, who would say that about their own VD, really? That's Anthony just not Mays. How you would really.
Anthony says it's contagious.
It's mimetic, like booing Jerry Krause. It's,
there it is.
Okay.
Mimetical core.
A mimetical core. Okay. Well, I thought that was a fantastic hour or so. I mean, I thought we hit all the notes. We did everything. Is there any other topic or anything you want to promote on the way out of here? Cinephobe.
Get it wherever you get podcasts. Also, the patreon.com/countthedings. You can find a bunch of extra Cinephobe episodes in there. You can find, we do these live watch-alongs. We call them rewatchingtons, where we'll watch movies we watched before and done episodes on before. People can interact and drop jokes. We also have extended cold opens that we don't publish for everybody. So patreon.com/countthedings. And then, everything else, Metalark, DraftKings, you know how to Google that stuff. Yeah. So.
I forgot to pump the YouTube at the beginning. How foolish of me. Yep. We have a YouTube channel, House of Strauss Pod. It got kicking. My debate conversation with Nick Wright. Debateation, conversation? I don't know. I don't know why millennials want to portmanteau
Point
everything.
of contention.
Yeah, point of contention. That's what it is. It's point of contention. My bad idea for a podcast that that's a deep cut for people who've been listening for a long time. But that one seems to have done numbers, engagement. I mean, it has convinced nobody. Yeah, for me, for the first video to get a few thousand views, I'm happy with it. Yeah. We can build on this, and check that out. Subscribe.
I just realized Anthony Mays might have been talking to me to pump the Cinephobe YouTube. We have a YouTube for Cinephobe as well. We haven't gotten thousands of views yet, so go ahead and check it out. We do our CT5s. Yeah. We do our top 5 lists based on Cinephobe episodes. That's published since us, so go ahead and check those out.
You need to argue about Aaron Rodgers. That's the way to do it. We were even saying before you came on, what could we get Amin to talk about that would get us engagement? Sweet engagement.
I think Boogate should be good, right? Taylor Swift is also going to be good.
Yeah. Will Chiefs fans boo Taylor Swift years from now? It really depends on if they lose. That's the whole thing. She'll become the Yoko Ono of that situation, like Jerry Krause is considered the Yoko Ono of Chicago. Amin, fantastic as always. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah. Ethan's the Yoko Ono of Count the Dings. That's why we had to kick him out.
Bella.